Welcome back to Face the Nation. We turn now to New Mexico's Democratic Governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, who's joining us this morning from Santa Fe. Governor, great to see you. Part of the reason we wanted to hear from you this week is Republicans here in Washington are debating the future of Medicaid and are proposing all sorts of potential changes to the program. Your state's got the highest Medicaid enrollment per capita last we checked. We're hoping to get some clarity this week on what it is exactly Republicans are thinking of doing with their budget blueprint regarding Medicaid. But I understand 70%, more than 70% of Medicaid coverage in your state comes from federal funding. If they start to make cuts of any sort, do you have a plan to make up the difference?
Well, look, I think every state, including this one, is going to do everything they can to protect the people that they are serving. And so we'll do the very same. And in fact, we've created sort of these Medicaid and related health care state-funded programs and trust funds. But this is very simply an effort to destroy health care as we know it, to rip it away from everyday Americans, make it more costly for everybody else. It will close hospitals. I think something like 432 hospitals across the country are on the edge right now. About a third of their funding comes or more comes from Medicaid. So you have less providers, you have fewer access points. No state, including this one, no state can take this kind of cost shifting, and businesses then don't have employees because they don't have access to health care. It has a huge economic factor that they aren't talking about, which is outrageous. And I want to do one more quick point because I know we want to get to other stuff. We had a governor who was trying to, I think, right before me, Governor Martinez, and to her credit, was looking at ways in a recession-era economy in New Mexico to look to have cost savings. They completely cut behavioral health out of Medicaid. And more than a decade later, we are still digging out. Providers left, contractors left, people don't have access, people died, more drug abuse, more drug addiction, more behavioral health high-risk issues. It is a disaster, and people will die. Children will die.
I do wonder, as part of this potential rollback, would you have to revisit the decision to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act if the federal government cuts back on funding?
So I'm committed in New Mexico to invest in quality and access. If we were to roll back those expansions, we can't do that. I would assume that my legislature is going to expect me, so it's a teaser, that I'm gonna come out for making sure that we hold Medicaid until, if those cuts come, we get Congress. So this is a plea to everyday Americans. You call your member of Congress. You let them know what this impact means to you and your family. Women, remember, fewer OBGYNs, fewer access points, higher maternal health mortality rates, higher infant mortality rates. Yeah. We need to make sure that Congress understands this is no way to adjust or address healthcare issues, which could use some efficiencies and could use some equality investments. There's no doubt that there's some waste and fraud. Do that. Indiscriminately just tearing apart Medicaid means that you are going after hardworking Americans in favor of billionaires and corporations who don't need or are asking for this $1.5 trillion tax cut.
This is an issue that each and every governor is going to have to deal with in one way or another as the Congress sorts out what to do. I want to ask you about a more unique one to New Mexico and just a handful of other states. You, of course, share a border with Mexico. And the Trump administration has now set up a unique national defense area along that roughly 170-mile span, giving the Army control of that region for about 3 years. You're looking at a map there. That area in yellow is essentially this new national defense area. It means troops can detain trespassers who enter that area. I'm curious, does this ease your concerns about border crossings as a border state governor? Is this the way to do it?
I don't think it is. That is not my most major concern in the lack of due process and what I believe are clear violations to the Constitution and what we're doing about immigration. Here's what I believe we ought to be doing, and I believe the majority of the members of my state. Pass border policy in Congress. Hire more Border Patrol agents. Make sure we're using the military in places where we need them. Make sure that states have access to their guard for natural disasters and related issues. This makes no sense. We've had the lowest for several administrations now, border crossings. We should be doing more. We should be doing more to prevent folks from not having access to be able to get visas and claim refugee and asylum status. We shouldn't just be doing that to South Africans. This makes no sense. But that's not my biggest issue. My bigger issue is indiscriminate ICE raids and sweeps, sowing fear in communities and with businesses all across the country, and that includes many communities right here in New Mexico. I've done a border flyover. I'm paying attention. You know, it's disconcerting to see tanks rolling right along your border, acting and demonstrating these sort of military powers in that way.
Yeah.
But I would prefer that Congress, the quicker they pass a border bill, a bipartisan border bill, then maybe we would have some common sense in this debate. Go after the cartel, go after bad members, bring me public safety, do that statewide. That makes the difference. They aren't doing that. They're rolling around in tanks, allegedly detaining 100 people or more in I don't even know what time frame. Because that information's hard to get.
Right. We'll continue to track it and ask those questions to get a sense of how many are being detained. Governor, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And we'll be right back. Pope Leo XIV called for peace around the world during an address to a crowd in St. Peter's Square this morning. His first Sunday blessing as head of the global Catholic Church. He emphasized the need for a lasting peace in Ukraine, and he called for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Earlier this weekend, the new pope held his first meeting with the College of Cardinals. After that meeting, we spoke with Chicago Cardinal Blase Cupich about what the new pope said and what it means for the church and the world's 1.4 billion Catholics. We know that one of the things he discussed with all of you is concerns about artificial intelligence, saying that it is one of the critical issues facing humanity. Did he explain why?
He said that in the context of linking to the work of Leo XIII during the moment of the Industrial Revolution, saw that as a new era. And so he sees this opportunity right now of his service as Leo XIV to take up the challenge of a new technology, namely artificial intelligence, and what that means to humanity. He offered those remarks to give us an idea that he sees that we are at a new moment in history and that the church has to be sensitive and aware of what's going on.
I imagine this will be the subject of great prayer and reflection by him and by all of you, but what possibly could the Catholic Church do to regulate or police or control the use of artificial intelligence?
I think it's probably up to legislators to put in measures that regulate. I think what we can do is to speak to the moral and human issues that are involved as this technology develops. How is it that we can continue to preserve our humanity and also grow in it? I think there are some wonderful opportunities for artificial intelligence, but also some challenges that are unforeseen. The measuring rod has to be, however, what does it do to our human nature? What does it do to our ability to act in a very human way? Those questions, I think, we are very well versed in to be able to speak to and offer the world some advice.
You know, anytime a priest, a bishop, a cardinal begins a mass, you always begin by saying, "Peace be with you." And it was one of the first things he said from the balcony there in St. Peter's Square when he greeted the crowd. I'm curious, as Pope, what does he make of this world on fire, and what can he possibly do to bring peace to the world?
He wanted to make sure that we as a church presented to the world the opportunity to bring a kind of peace that begins in each one of our hearts. We do see, as Pope Francis said, a world war that's being fought piecemeal. And so my hope would be that he would be an agent of peace, looking for ways in which humanity can be challenged to look for ways in which the differences that we have can be resolved in a peaceful way. You know, the other thing that comes to mind here is that the Cardinals came to a decision in just 24 hours. Here we were over 130 men representing over 70 nations, and we were able, despite all of the differences that we have in language and culture, to come to a decision in a unified way. Hopefully that is a sign that the world also can work out its difficulties and differences in a way that's peaceful and that unites humanity.
Do we anticipate that he'll continue Francis's legacy of weighing in on global politics? And is he perhaps calling on all of you as his brother cardinals to do the same?
Yes, I think that he feels an obligation, as I think popes have in the modern era, to speak to the issues of the day. Because we live in a world in which there are real challenges globally. There is, I think, a fresh moment for us to examine what are the human dimensions of immigration. How do we see global warming impacting us? How the issues related to the sufferings of humanity should impact all of us and make all of us aware and participate in solutions.
Your Eminence, it is Mother's Day, and I'm curious, what responsibility does the Catholic Church have to women right now?
Well, it's a great opportunity to wish all mothers a happy Mother's Day. I think the important aspect, this was begun in many ways by Pope Francis, is to recognize the gifts and talents of women. They have to be equal partners in offering leadership in the life of the church, also that their voice is heard. They come at life differently through their own experience and enrich the discussion.
But you say there women should be equal partners, but the issue of women ever serving as deacons or priests, of course, is one that even Pope Leo disagrees with. Is this a settled issue, that there will never be that, but that he perhaps continues the elevation of women in other Vatican leadership positions?
Well, yes, because I think that what the question comes down to is, how do we give a place in the life of the church, especially in leadership, and also to have the wisdom of women brought forward in the life of the church? Pope Francis has done that in making, for instance, the governor of Vatican City for the first time a woman. A woman who's the head of a major dicastery for religious, so for men and women. And so he has looked for ways in which the very gifts and talents of women can be put to the service of the life of the church. And I am very sure that Pope Leo XIV will do the same.
Let's get to the question that I think is on the minds of many Americans still. We can't quite fathom the fact that an American is now Pope. You've known him for many years. Both of you are sons of the Midwest. He's from the south side of Chicago. You were born in Omaha. You're now the Cardinal of Chicago. How do you believe his papacy is going to be shaped by his Midwest roots?
I think that he now has a lot on his shoulders, and having been born in the city of big shoulders, I think he's up to the task. But I also don't want to underplay the fact that he's been shaped in his experience of living in Peru. The people in Peru consider him their pope, their compatriot, as he's also a citizen of Peru. And also he's lived on the continent in Europe, 12 years here in Rome. So I think he's been shaped by all of that, but we'll take pride in the fact that it all started in Chicago.
And if a year from now we're trying to measure the Leo effect, maybe specifically on the American Catholic Church, how are we going to know that it was a success or a failure so far?
Well, I think that let's give him time. You know, maybe a year is too quick of a time period to make that assessment. It's a relationship that's going to grow, and I think that someone who speaks like an American to Americans is going to be an opportunity, a fresh opportunity, to reintroduce the social teachings of the Church in a way that's going to make us take a second look at all of that as Catholics in the United States. That's what I'm looking forward to.
And how soon do we think he'll visit?
Well, it probably won't be the first one, but we're going to do some heavy lobbying for Chicago to be on the itinerary when he comes to the United States.
I would think he would stop by. Why wouldn't he? Cardinal Blase Cupich of Chicago, the Windy City, congratulations, and thank you for spending some time with us this weekend. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ed, for having me. I appreciate it.
You can see more from our interview with Cardinal Cupich on our website and our YouTube page. We'll be right back with a lot more Face the Nation. Stay with us. We're delighted to turn now to the United Kingdom's ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, who's here making his Face the Nation debut. Ambassador, thank you for being here.
It's great to be here, and happy Mother's Day to all those mums out there.
Indeed, to all of them, wherever they are. I wanted to start with the fact that the United States and the United Kingdom have now announced a framework for a trade deal that covers all sorts of things: steel, aluminum, cars, beef. You're scrapping a 20% tariff on U.S. beef. You're raising the quota on its imports. Do you have any sense of how soon this deal is going to be finalized? And do you trust that the United States is going to hold up its end of the bargain?
Oh yes, we regard it as finalized. A deal is a deal. And I have absolutely no doubt that the President and his colleagues, Secretary Lutnick and USTR, Jameson Greer, having said they would do a deal, have been true to their word. They delivered this deal, and I have absolute confidence that they'll see it through. And it reflects the sort of amazing, confident relationship between our two countries and the cordial relationship personally between the President and the Prime Minister. Now we can build on it. I mean, we can look to other trade barriers that we can bring down so as to create more jobs in the United States. And also something very close to my heart, I want to see us build a close US-UK technology partnership to invest and build future industries in both our countries, which are science-based and driven by technology.
Right.
That would be a great gain.
And that's not part of this deal, so it requires another round.
No, it's featured in the deal, but it requires now work to design it.
My read in the British press, I'm going to pin this on the British press, is that you've accepted a worse deal than the UK had before, just to get out from the shadow of the tariff threat. Is it that you guys perhaps rushed to be first before all other countries?
I literally didn't understand the logic of that. The fact is that...
Well, you're paying more tariff than you were before, right? That's part of it.
Well, in some cases, but in other cases we're not. I mean, in some cases we're down to zero. So, and in other cases, for example, in autos, we've got absolutely secure quotas for exports to the United States. So it's a good deal, and I'm very pleased that we've achieved it, but now we have to build on it.
The other tariff thing that came up this week that has the potential to adversely affect the British economy is the idea of a 100% tariff on any movies produced outside the United States. Have you discussed that yet with the administration? Do you have any sense of how that could adversely affect the British film industry?
Well, we touched on it, but this is American film production taking place in Britain. And we want to protect the American film industry. And tariffs, if you can put a tariff on a film, is not going to do that. But whether it be in respect of films or pharmaceuticals that may be coming down the track towards us, we have an agreement in this deal that British interests will be protected alongside those of the United States.
I want to turn to Russia and Ukraine because that was a great focus of your Prime Minister this weekend. Yeah. He said after the announcement of the proposed ceasefire this weekend that if Putin, quote, is serious about peace, he has a chance to show it. But he's basically ignored the ceasefire proposal and is now once again calling for one-on-one talks. I mean, is there assessment of your government that Russia's at all serious about this?
Look, at face value, it's constructive that he's offered direct talks for Putin with the Ukrainians. But then when you look at the small print, you see that he wants these talks so as to call into question the very existence of Ukraine as a free, democratic and sovereign nation. And in the meantime, overnight this weekend, we've had Russian munitions and drones raining down on Ukraine and killing Ukrainian people. It doesn't seem serious to us. And we're very glad that the Ukrainians have embraced this ceasefire, as the president asked them to do. But the truth is that it looks as if President Putin is engaging in brinkmanship with President Trump. And certainly as far as we're concerned in Britain, we only want one president to prevail in this standoff, and that's President Trump, not President Putin. And that may require, therefore, additional pressure being mounted on Russia in order to bring them to the negotiating table. And
I'm curious, you've been around the president in recent days. He's been clearly charmed by you, and you've been talking to the administration about a host of things. Is it your sense that he and his administration has, in essence, turned the corner on the Ukraine-Russia conflict in the last few weeks, siding more now clearly with Ukraine?
I think we are at a defining moment in this conflict, this war that Russia has launched on Ukraine. And that's why I think that the administration now needs to consider how it's going to pursue its goal of peace. That goal can only be realized if Russia, Putin, matches what Zelensky and the Ukrainians have offered, which is a 30-day ceasefire during which proper negotiations can take place. That's what we need to see.
Does the United States need to pass a new round of sanctions against Russia if they don't follow through in the next few days?
Well, Senator Lindsey Graham has a bill, and with the colleagues up on the Hill, and I think the administration will want to judge the timeliness, appropriateness of backing that bill.
All right. Ambassador Peter Mandelson, thank you so much for stepping by. Don't be a stranger. Come again.
I'd love to.
All righty. Thank you. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. That's it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Margaret's going to be back next Sunday. I'd be remiss if I didn't say Happy Mother's Day to Mom, to my mother-in-law, to my wife, and to all the mothers of CBS News and those of you watching. Tune in next Sunday to see who's here to face the nation. Take care.